What is up, everyone? It's your girl JJ Beats here, and today we're gonna react to talent doesn't exist, and that's a good thing. I'm very curious of what he's gonna say in this video. So with that being said, let's just get on with it.
Talent does not exist, at least not in the way we think of it when we hear it thrown around in our daily lives.
What do you guys think talent
is? I
is?
think the idea of talent is overall a negative one that makes us think worse of ourselves and what we're capable of achieving. I've heard so many people write themselves off and say, you know, I'd love to be a guitar player or a graphic designer.
I say that all the time, I'm not gonna lie.
I just don't have the talent, right?
I say that a lot.
Whatever it is that other more successful person has, I wasn't born with it. So I may as well not try. And if you've ever said something like that to yourself, I'm going to try and convince you that you probably do, in fact, have at least what it takes to be successful at.
I mean, I just want to say that, like, a lot of people say that it's like, for me, I can't say, oh, I have talent to become a YouTuber or VTuber. For example, like, if I have someone who's literally started off at the same point as me and is already, like, 100 times successful than I am. So then it's like, I don't have the talent. I understand what he's like, it's a lot of hard work, but like it is talent, but you have to develop your talent. But like, for example, thumbnails, I haven't been making great thumbnails apparently, even though I feel like I've been improving. So also like editing, I haven't been doing that. So I want to see if he can make me change my mind, but
whatever it is you want to achieve. And I'm not trying to glaze you up and give you unrealistic expectations of what's possible.
Maybe I am
to achieve
getting
in
sick.
one lifetime. You know, I'm not out here to say you can make $1 billion and be a doctor and be an astronaut. None of that. I really do think that most people are just underestimating what they're capable of. And I want to speak up about it. The way I like to think about talent is that we use the word talent when we see someone do something we think is awesome.
Yeah, like a prodigy of a sort.
What other words to use to explain how they were able to do it.
Skillful?
For example, when you were in the school play as a kid,
hardworking,
marching band or football or whatever it was, your grandparents might have come to your play or to the game, and after you performed well or won the game, they might have said, "Oh, my grandson is so talented," right? Well, you don't feel talented in that moment. You feel like a normal kid who showed up to practice every day until it was performance or game day, and then you just did what you had been doing, except this time.
So I feel like with so in that scenario, it's like, oh, you're hardworking, your hard work paid off. But like, I feel like talent in the way, like, you could pick up things a lot quicker than other people. I think that's what, maybe he's gonna expand on this, but that's what I'm thinking. It's like, you know, a lot of people will substitute talent for like skills and whatnot. Like, for example, if I saw someone do an illustration, I would be like, oh my goodness, you're so talented, because I haven't developed them skills. But let's say it was just a skill that they developed. But if someone said, oh, I did this illustration in 10 minutes while someone took 10 hours, it's like, oh, wow, you are talented. Like, I don't know. I feel like that would be the right way of using it, wouldn't it?
Grandparents were there to see it and call you talented. And that's the simple truth of it. Talent is what people who show up for one day use to describe people who show up every day. And that's all cool in the game and something you might hear in a graduation speech
I
or
get
on
that.
a cereal box or something. But a lot of you are probably calling bullshit, because there were probably other kids that you remember who stepped onto the field or the stage and it was like they got it, right? It was like they were born to act. Or
yeah, basically.
While in hindsight, you probably didn't know what these kids were
I
doing.
guess it's the water.
Whether they were taking
I didn't think that would actually work
since they were a toddler, or, you know, playing catch with their dad. At the end of the day,
I wonder why I had
you are going
hiccups.
to meet people that just seem to, you know, quote unquote, be a natural at whatever it is. Some people are naturally fast runners. Some are really strong. And some are born with two tails that they can spin like a helicopter and fly. And it's true, we're all different in ways that we can't control, right? And a lot of that is determined at birth. Your genetics and brain chemistry and all the external factors that determine how your body and mind functions do set your limitations and your capabilities different than mine or anybody else's. All I'm trying to convince you of today is that quote-unquote natural aptitude makes up much less of your potential than you think. It starts with stepping away from comparison. You probably already know that you shouldn't compare yourself to others.
But we still do.
Right?
We are our biggest
not
critic.
to others, but to who you were yesterday. And yes, it's healthy to learn every day and keep iterating on your craft and keep improving at who you are. But my hot take is that it's not worth comparing yourself to yourself at any given time in your life. There's basically nothing different about comparing yourself to who you used to be to comparing yourself to another person, because that person you were yesterday.
Wait, well, I don't know. I hear the exact opposite, where they're like, oh, if you notice, like for me, I notice like if I go to streams that were a whole year ago, I'm like, ew, what is that? And people are like, well, that just means you're like developing better skills or something. Like they're like, you recognize the faults and whatnot. So I don't know. What are your thoughts, chat? What are your thoughts?
They're a different person. They ate a different.
Compare yourself to a cat. I don't know about that. They got a nice life
on the drive to work. You have a lot in common with them, but you exist and they're just a memory. I remember a time when uploading YouTube videos was easy for me. I was excited to post every day. I had all this motivation. I was posting like 3 videos a week. And after about a year of that, I was burnt out to the absolute max. I eventually overcame that burnout, and I might tell that story in another video. That was years ago, and I still have not reached the same motivation and output that I had back then. And a few years ago, it just clicked for me that that's okay. I don't get to decide when I feel motivated, and it's clear that what I was doing back then wasn't sustainable, and now I'm God damn it. And now that I'm approaching my creative pursuits with much more control, I'm finding YouTube so much more rewarding, both spiritually and materially. Thank you guys so much for watching that most recent video so much. God damn it, Tails. And in a way, that's still a comparison to who I was before. But
does he do this while he's playing the game?
Right? I stopped comparing myself to what I had going for me in the past and started evaluating what I need in the present. Maybe this should have been the Sonic CD video instead of the Sonic 2 video. Yeah, fuck you, Tails. That's worth pointing out. The people who are the absolute best at what they do are often getting there by comparing themselves to others. Nobody ever got silver in the Olympics and felt the exact same feelings that they would have if they had won the gold. They might feel 99% of the same feelings. They might be overwhelmed with pride and joy and in themselves for trying their hardest, but nobody gets to the Olympics by keeping their eyes on a silver medal. But at the same time, if we're keeping it real,
I get that.
if your eyes on gold was all it took to get you to the Olympics, more people would be competing there. The unfortunate truth is that most Olympians have both an obsessive level of dedication and a genetic and circumstantial predisposition for their bodies to be a perfect fit for their sport. Something can take hard work and have to be earned and be a privilege at the same time. I, being a twink and at the age I'm at now, will never be a gold medalist in hammer throw or a professional linebacker. But if I really set my mind to it, I could probably be way better at hammer throw or football than I ever thought I could be. And maybe even compared to most people. Because as you probably know, winning isn't everything. You don't have to be the very best that no one ever was.
I want to be the very best.
Your favorite song was probably not written by the greatest musician who ever lived, if such a person even exists. There have most certainly been times in your life where even if you didn't end up the best, you ended up way better at the thing than you ever imagined. And you can probably look back at that moment that you realized how far you had come with a lot of pride. I've decided I like using...
I feel like a lot of that, I understand what you're saying. Is that my catchphrase now? I understand what they're saying. But like, for example, like, imagine if you, like, it depends on your household too. Like, imagine if the household you grew up with was like, oh, you placed third instead of like, you can't even place first, you failure. I'm sorry, I have my retainer on, so I sound a little different. But if you're like from a supporting household, I'm like, oh my goodness, you did your best. Oh my goodness, look at what your effort. I think that's what happens, like, because sometimes, like, based on where you're raised, you are compared to, so then you end up getting that keen sense of like, oh, you gotta compare yourself to others, and then you gotta compare yourself and see if you've even been improving, because then you feel like a failure. So I understand why he's saying this, but I also want to say, like, I get why you wouldn't think this way.
Game I'm playing during these videos to illustrate my example, but Sonic, for all I love about the series, is kind of terrible at making this point. Everyone in the Sonic series has the abilities they do because they were made or born that way, and we don't really see anyone really earning anything. Tails, up until about Sonic Heroes, is the only exception I can really think of. Yes, he was born with 2 tails, but from birth it would just be a deformity, and instead he's inspired by Sonic to use what makes him unique to achieve great things and defeat evil.
They showed that.
For example, let's go full nerd and talk Dungeons and Dragons. Dragons. I actually know a thing or two about D&D, unlike RuneScape, which a few of you from
I
the last
really don't
video
want to
keen
listen
point
to
out.
Dungeons and
When you make your
Dragons.
character in D&D, you have what are called ability scores, and this
Okay,
this
I'm
serves
not
as a way
gonna
to
lie.
quantify your
Dude,
character's
is this a long
abilities, if you
part?
will. You know, their strength, their intelligence, their charisma, dexterity, all that. And these scores
Okay, no.
serve as sort of the basis for how good your character
My
is at everything
curious
they do.
cat.
Having an 18 in strength would make you a
I can't get
quote-unquote
into
better
Dungeons and
barbarian
Dragons,
than
man.
somebody with a 9 in strength, for example. But someone with a 9 in strength might have a 17 in intelligence and make a great wizard. But what's interesting is that as you level up and you become a level
Abracadabra.
15 wizard or barbarian, the ability scores you start with matter less and less. Yeah, at level 1, a +4 to damage, thanks to a high strength score, makes a big difference from +3. But at level 20, a +24 to damage over a +23 isn't really going to make a difference in most situations. And the important thing to recognize there is no matter where your quote-unquote natural talent is, where you start, you're gonna suck compared to anyone with significantly more experience than you, even if they lack that natural talent. And you're gonna suck compared to what you'll be when you gain that experience. You have to suck before you can succeed. And this reflects what
Okay.
it's like in real
Oh,
life.
that's
When
actually.
we're born,
Hold
we
on.
don't get to
Where
pick the
am I
ability scores we
supposed?
start
Okay,
with,
wait,
if
hold
you
on.
will. Some of us don't get to pick the ability scores we start with, if you will. Some of us build muscle easily, and then you know,
Oh my goodness,
some of
that's
us are naturally outgoing and well-spoken.
I never
and some of
saw
us
it
are shy and
before.
introverted. Intelligence is actually up in the air.
That's crazy.
It's pretty good evidence that IQ is essentially a myth, but from a practical
What?
sense, there are people who
Oh,
say
D&D, what's
learn
up,
things in school,
Rogan? I was like,
in
huh?
school environment more easily than others. So we might feel like we're not. Oh my God, what the fuck just happened there? So we might feel like we're not as naturally, you know, quote unquote smart or
Where
as
was it
gifted as
here?
other people, you know. But you probably heard the phrase at some point, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
Did I
And in
skip
this
it?
case, what that means is you're
Anywho, listen, yo, succeed. I didn't realize that was in there, bro. I don't know why I can't find it anymore, but like that you have to, in order to succeed. That's crazy.
quote unquote natural talent or aptitude for something really only helps you to get
That's
the ball
smart.
rolling at the beginning more than it helps you reach the absolute top. Some things are going to come more easily for others and some things are going to come more easily for you. But what's important is that everyone reaches a point where it's no longer easy anymore.
I
For
feel
me,
like
when
I
was in
haven't
school,
found
math
something. I was
came
like, oh,
really
this.
easily. I aced algebra without really having
Nah,
to
because some
practice or
math
study,
I
and then
understand,
got
some
all the way to
didn't.
calculus, and I completely and totally shit the bed. It was like I
Oof.
slammed a race
Okay.
car into a
I
brick
get what-
wall.
yeah,
It was completely
okay.
mind fucked me. And the equations finally got too complicated for me to memorize just from seeing them. And before I knew it, the kids who
I
were
can't
worse
understand
than me at
geometry for the
algebra
life
were
of me.
better than me at calculus. And it's because the kids who had trouble in algebra had to develop good study habits to be successful. And those good habits and hard work carried over into calculus. And while I was good at math, I just seemed to be terrible at every physical sport, even the ones that really aren't physically demanding. In high school, I got kicked off the golf team. The golf team. And in college, I once taught a girl how to play ping pong, and then in her very first game, she beat me. I have a natural
Dang.
aptitude at math, and if I really loved math, I probably could do some really cool stuff with it. But I don't love math. In fact, I really hate doing math problems, but I love ping pong. There's gonna be things in your life that you're good at that you have really no interest in pursuing, and there's gonna be things you really love and really want to do, and you're gonna suck at them. And that's okay. The first step is accepting what you're like definitely never going to be capable of. And this can be hard.
So, like, I understand that, like, but it's like, for example, like, you know how I'm trying to become a YouTuber, right? If you guys haven't noticed, it's like, well, how much time can you theoretically give to it? Like, I know with like this, if you keep it as a hobby, yeah, you could give it as much time as you want. But if you like, you know, if you start having like, if you're not making any money from it and you have to have like, you have kids or you have a husband or a family and then you have to push it to the side, then can you say were you successful? Like, I think that's where it goes, but I understand what he's saying. I agree with what he's saying. I'm just saying, like, you know, if you try to put it like the other perspective, it's like,
and it can put you in a negative
kind of feels like a
mindset.
waste
So
of
start with things
time.
you definitely don't care about. For example, I have terrible vision, and while I can go about my daily life just fine with my glasses, I'll never be able to become a fighter pilot. For example, they literally will not let me fly fighter planes if I can't pass a vision test, which is fine since I definitely don't see myself joining the military.
well, you
by
know what?
choice.
So you know what I noticed though, like he says it's okay that you can't do everything. But a lot of advice that a lot of YouTubers give is that you have to do everything. That you have to be capable of doing everything. Like, let's say you're really bad at art or like stuff, so then you have to do the thumbnails. You gotta get good instead of like, oh, have someone else help you and whatnot. So I understand completely, because like, for example, when it comes to VTubing, I can understand that I could try to become a rigger, but like at the same time, do I really want to become a rigger? Like, you get that? Like, do I really want to put effort in something that I'm just like, you know what, I'd rather just not spend hours and hours upon my time to get that done. As long as you love it, yeah, I get it. But you know, sometimes the results just feel like, is it worth it? That's why.
While music is so important to me, and I feel sad thinking about people who will never experience what I have with music, I think about them watching me play guitar, and it probably looks pretty
That's
funny.
you?
I must look pretty silly. There's a conversation to be had here about disability and accessibility and all that. But as privileged as I am enough to wear glasses and take medication that mitigates my disabilities, I don't know that I'm really qualified to lead that discussion. So I think we should probably just listen more to people with disabilities that aren't as accommodated as they could be. So once you've got over that
failing
initial
on
hurdle
Sonic.
of giving
I'm
something
bad
up,
at the original Sonic games. I'm just like, bro, doing the dumbest things.
That initial hump, even if it's just one thing, then you can move on to things that you might be a little bit more attached or invested in that you know you're going to have to give up at some point. This is the hard part, because we have a lot of dreams and a lot of ambitions and goals in our life, and we want to do them all. We want to be an astronaut and a guitar hero and a star quarterback.
Guitar hero?
Right? I found it really difficult to give up golf. It took 3 years of literally getting the lowest score possible in every tournament I competed in, and the coach sitting me down and being like, homie, there has got to be a better use of your time. Like, I still enjoyed it, and it helped me connect with my grandpas, but I
for sure feel like that as a hopeful writer. I hope you could become better at writing. Speaking of which, we are trying to make a game if you want to become a writer for that. Lol. Discord. Anywho, aside from that, what I was trying to say is that with, for example, I want to obviously one day make my own comic or manga or whatnot. But if I have to do it all by myself, it's like, well, how many years would I have to put that into motion? Like, it's like, if I could build up like a way to fund goals I want to do. For example, YouTube, right? You can do stuff like let's say play games and whatnot, but if you wanted to like collab with others and whatnot, you would have to actually build an audience first, because although some people are hopeful, a lot of them aren't gonna just collab if you're like at the bottom. For example, if I wanted to be like, yo, Iron Mouse, let's do a collab when I'm at 3K, I mean, I could give it a shot, but they're probably gonna be like, well, why should I waste my time with you? Because, you know, at the end of the day, it's like, well, like, why should I give you a chance when I haven't given other people a chance? But like, in terms of recognizing what I had to give up, like, for when I was trying to learn how to draw, I realized I had to give up a lot of time to do other things. Like, when I was drawing, I had to give up a lot more time on YouTube in order to draw, just to become better. So it's like, you know, sacrifices are going to be made. You can try to achieve what you want to achieve, but you got to realize there are sacrifices there. Like, when it comes to money, time, effort, you're always going to have to do something that you might not want to do.
Just as good time with them doing stuff that wasn't golf. And I still hit a cheeky chip at Top Golf with my girlfriend's family every once in a while and get to play putt-putt with my friends. When it came to ping pong, I eventually just accepted I was terrible and kept playing anyway. And I made a ton of friends just being confident in myself and laughing along with the jokes we made at my expense and giving the other homies that weren't as good an ego boost when they could beat me without really trying. But I'm not in college anymore, and I don't play ping pong, and I don't golf. And while sometimes I miss them, I don't regret spending my time pursuing things that I love just as much, if not more, that I find more rewarding and I'm actually capable of improving at. Sorry to any of you Hidden Palace enjoyers. I really
Hidden
cannot
Palace?
stand Hidden Palace in
Hidden-
the re-release of this game. I really just hate the boss. The boss takes
the
like 20
game.
minutes to kill, and I'm just not about it. That being said, if it let me skip Oil Ocean, I'd definitely do it because, man, I hate this zone too. You know, in my last video, I talked about Spider-Man 2 and how great it was and how applicable it was to life and all that. But one part of that movie I really
Spider-Man
left
2.
out that I couldn't really find a way to fit in was a really great part where Peter's talking to his aunt and she's giving him this advice and she's telling him, and she doesn't know he's Spider-Man, but she clearly knows he's Spider-Man, right? She's like, you know, sometimes in order to be a hero, we have to give up the thing we want the most, even our dreams. And I never really knew what to do with that as a kid because it didn't seem like
why is speaking facts though?
Right? Isn't it his dream to be Spider-Man? It's like, well, no, his dream was to be Peter Parker, really. And you know, sometimes we do have to give up our dreams in life in order to be who we need to be. I can't say that I never wanted to be a good ping pong player and maybe win a ping pong tournament or being a decent golfer, even if it's just a decent golfer. A lot of you probably know who Ludwig is. And if you don't, he's quite a large YouTuber and one of the most successful Twitch streamers of all time. The other day, I was listening to him do an interview with a psychologist named Dr. K, who you might have heard me rave about in my last video. He told Dr. K that he had dreams of being a professional Super Smash Brothers competitor and seriously considered grinding to become the best player of his choice of character and win big tournaments and all this. And he said something profound that actually came very natural to me, to be honest.
Yeah, also I do this thing sometimes where if I want something, I just think of having the thing and then I feel good and then I don't try to pursue the thing. I wanted to be the best Smash player in the world. And then while practicing to be the best Smash player in the world, I would think about being the best Smash player in the world and like what it'd be like to win and like everyone would be like, you're the fucking best and like holding a trophy. And then that felt good. And then I would stop pursuing the very long, boring, tiresome road of actually doing that thing because it felt good enough to get a little crumb of what that thing was like.
I was surprised to hear Dr. K say that his mind was
I don't understand
blown. Like,
that.
he never really thought or considered that playing out a fantasy like that in your head could allow you to let go of your ambitions and focus on the things that
I don't understand that. I'm trying to wrap my head across that. Like, if I wanted to become like the best Pokemon player, like a VG, the video card game, whatever, right? But then I'm like, oh, let me live it out. What would it be like? No, okay, I think I've started to get it. Like, for example, if I wanted to be a celebrity so I could be with someone and live it out in my head, but you know that's likely not gonna happen unless you know you do like like okay, let's put this into K-pop's perspective, right? Like, okay, so there's BTS. Let's just say you dated someone from BTS, right? And you live that out in your head, like you know how a lot of people do when they're a big fan, right? And then you're like, okay, that was a fun time, but then you realize like, you know, that would be enough. But I don't need to actually experience that. I think that's what they're trying to say. I get it now. It's, yeah, like sometimes it's just enough to play it out to like get through that conclusion of how it would be like. And then you could experience something else for yourself. Yeah. Yeah. You know what? I never really thought of it that way, but yeah, that does happen a lot. Yeah, because I always think about, what if this story I made happened and it was like, and then I never actually do it, but like, it's like, well, what if this scenario happened and it was just like, oh my goodness, like, oh.
Really mattered to you.
I didn't really expect that to happen.
For example, when I was a kid, I didn't want to be a YouTuber. YouTube didn't even exist when I was a kid. I wanted to be an astronaut. I loved space. I loved learning about the planets. I saw Blue Marble and, you know, those other photos of Earth from space.
I didn't really want to be a YouTube either now I think about it.
Those photos captured, like, all of the entirety of human existence at
once. What did I want to be?
For a long time,
I wanted to be a video game player, so I guess that's why
but as
YouTube.
I got older and other things piqued my interest,
I wanted to become like a beta
tester. The intensity of astronaut training and, oh dear God, the math involved, and really just more about what an astronaut actually does on the day-to-day. I accepted without even really having to think about it that I just was never going to go in that direction. Looking at astronomy photos started to satisfy the desire instead of cultivate it. And I started to put more of my focus into what mattered most to me at the time. I'm sure in another life I would have made an excellent astronaut, but playing astronaut as a kid was probably more fun than I would ever have actually being an astronaut. Sorry that I keep bringing up my last video if you haven't seen it yet, but in that video we talked a little bit about Dharma and the idea that we all have a voice or like a compass in our head, whether it's our conscience or our subconscious or our soul or whatever you want to call it.
I got so
that
focused with
guides
those
us in the
turtles.
pursuit of a fulfilling and harmonious life, right? What that calling draws you to won't necessarily be something that comes naturally to you. Like Dr. K ended up becoming a psychiatrist after getting like a 2.5 GPA in college or something like that.
Whoa.
In fact, most careers and even just creative pursuits are complex and multifaceted enough to challenge your weaknesses no matter where they are. The otherwise greatest doctor in the world might suck at telling patients bad news. The greatest teachers will always have to adapt their preferred teaching method to each student. The singer with the most beautiful voice might write cheesy ass lyrics. Even if
Yeah,
you aren't
I
the
can't
best at
write
any given
anything.
thing you choose to pursue, you're most
You have a good
definitely
one,
going to bring
Ocean.
something to the table that no one else does. My friend Isaiah and I started learning guitar at pretty much the exact same time, and he can move his fingers much quicker, and he can hit pinch harmonics and do cool techniques that I still can't do after a few years of practice. But I came to learning guitar with a background in music already, and so instead of trying to force my slow and clumsy fingers to shred, I instead focus on my melodies and having tighter rhythms and things like that. When it came to YouTube, I didn't start out particularly good at just about any aspect of making videos. I've actually lost count of the number of times I've quit YouTube. I don't know how many channels I've created in my lifetime. Like, this is probably my 10th channel or more, maybe.
I have like
record videos
5.
in my bedroom with my voice, you know, super low and whispery, so my family or roommates didn't hear me talking to myself, and I still find it harder to record videos if someone else is home. But no matter how many times my channels didn't live up to my goals or expectations, I found myself pulled back in by a new idea or ambition to make videos I thought were cool. It's probably not a good idea to put your ambitions and everything you have into
One
stuff
basket?
that clearly isn't going to work out for you. Just like I had to give up the idea of ever being a golf or ping pong champion. But you're always going to develop taste before you develop skill. And so whatever you choose to do, you're gonna suck at it first, whether it's coming naturally or not. Shakespeare didn't pop out the womb knowing how to speak, let alone how to write.
Do you think
poetry,
hard
right?
work can
Jimi Hendrix didn't pop out the
overcome
womb knowing
natural talent
how to
with
play
enough
guitar.
talent?
I didn't pop out the womb knowing how to beat this boss. The important thing is that you continue to learn and you continue to grow. And you
There
don't
can
let
be
setbacks or a quote unquote lack of talent keep you from doing that. I'm a full-time independent creator, and recently I've stepped back from editing videos for clients to focus on empowering more creators and people who don't know yet that they're creators to pursue their passions. If you're
I
interested
think
in
there's
supporting my
something
mission,
that can
or
be
you're interested in
found.
getting more support from me and my community, consider visiting my website and becoming a member of the Neat
Ooh,
Club.
that
And
looks
if
nice.
This video made you feel something, share those feelings with me in the comments. I've read and replied in some way to
I don't know
every
if I
comment that was
think
left on
I think this was the first video I watched, which is crazy because it's just him playing Sonic. But I guess I like watching people play Sonic. I just don't like playing the regular Sonic game. So you've mentioned, do you think hard work can overcome natural talent with enough effort? I think because even if you have talent, you still need to put work into it, because then you start to lose what made it good, I guess. Like, you still have to improve yourself, if this makes any sense. So, like, for example, I don't know if you guys would consider me a good singer, right? But it's not like some people say, oh, you have potential. It's not like you just like sing once and then, you know, you just keep, like, for example, let me see, honey, honey, like, I didn't just always sing. It was like, honey, honey, or like, you know, I would voice crack. Like, there's still stuff I need to learn from it, but with more effort you can grow and have a wide variety of ways to it. So like, honey, honey, or honey, like, yeah, one sounds good, one doesn't, right? But if I give enough effort, I could get honey to sound like honey. Like, does that make any sense? Like, if you practice it enough, you can make something greater than it was before. It's just a matter of perspective and opinion, because one person might think you're talented, one person might think you're trash. Like, I know I made a video recently on my second channel and someone's like, stop whining, and it was just my opinion, it was my take. It's just like, some people are gonna think you have something good to say, some people are just gonna think you're wasting time. So I think I think it is possible but I don't think it just happens overnight. But with that being said, everyone, that was the video. What are your guys? Let me know down below your opinion. Was this a good video? I don't know. I feel like I learned something, even though I didn't come into the intention of. I kind of just wanted to hear someone's perspective, but it made me really think about it. But yeah, with that being said, it's your girl signing out. Bye bye.